And geez, yeah, there were so many Cyclops here at the end of the day. Just absolutely packed. Very interesting. The quarterstaff of the uplifting whale. Huh. Let's hope next week is a little more chill then. That's the plan. We'll see how it goes. At the end of the day, it is what it is, and a bit of stress, not the end of the world. As long as I'm, you know, feeling healthy and things are going well otherwise, then I don't have much to complain about there at the end of the day. But Stormform overrides most of Jivia's mutations. I guess that makes sense, especially any of the physical ones. And you know, when I have the time, the wherewithal to think about the basically all the named Panlords, I usually do slightly better with pronunciation, but Noleg there just caught me by the wayside. In Noleg's realm in Pan, it felt really good to have a stack of mutations to tank the Melmutes. Jivia fixed any issues shortly. Yeah, Jivia is very nice to have there. Either them or like Zin, so you have the resistance to mutations. Pretty invaluable for sure. I'm really hung up on this Dragon Scales. You know, AC goes down a bit, but having poison resistance without needing to swap over to the ring seems like it could be a lovely feature to have with us here. Maybe we'll just think about it for now, keep it in the back of our minds that that's an option at any point, and otherwise just not worry too much about it. You know, not too many poison enemies at this stage of the game anyway. As we can take another peek here, shield's getting pretty close, hitting its cap. Afterwards we'll probably like train some more fighting for some base health, maybe some armor to just give us a nice overall increase in those defenses, or continue that. And right, at some point I need to start training Invo as well. Invo will probably be aiming to have pretty much around max by the end of the run here. And I think my brain finally caught on. There was something wiggling there that I was like, there's something I should do before going down the stairs, and I could not for the life of me recall, but I believe it was just reading through our ID, getting a few more of those tools identified here so that we're feeling a little more comfortable as we continue onwards to honor and glory here. Fantastic. Ring of Flight will probably end up throwing away. Again, unless we get very, very lucky with some artifact boots, we're probably looking at continuing with our current set for the majority, if not the entirety of the game. But not too shabby. This, if I had to guess, maybe our entrance to Orc. Could just be a fun little Orc vault too. In fact, yeah, looks like it might have just been a nice altar spot for all of our new friends to hang out. Fair enough. Ah, never mind. Oh, DCSS, always stalling just long enough to make me doubt everything and make a fool. But hey, wouldn't have it any other way. As, oof, we get shafted, and shaft traps are very dangerous on a Qazlal follower, because as soon as we find ourselves in a new area, we are unfortunately making just a crap ton of noise, just an absurd level. So very easily we can find ourselves getting completely surrounded and out of our depth. And speaking of, I think I'll just escape that one. Don't really want to face off against the two-headed ogre and the other threats in the area there, so we'll play it a little bit on the safe side. And then yeah, fighting, armor, and then focus Invo as well. We'll bring that up to a nice even 12 and see how that fares, shall we? Oh, I would like the boomerangs. Thank you, game. At some point, we are very, very likely to be switching over and training some throwing just to have some mitigation against far away enemies, as well as softening up those scarier targets as they make their approach, of course. Colgate, from what you had heard about Extended, you expected it to be harder, especially Tomb. You were way more scared than you needed to be. I mean, I will put an asterisk next to that, because Tomb, yeah, maybe not the most terrifying endeavor in the game, until it is. As soon as you get that nasty combination of net traps or all the wrong curses hitting you at the worst time, it can very quickly become untenable situation. But yeah, as long as you're prepared, shouldn't be the end of the world. I feel like I still haven't done quite enough tomb runs to have a very high level of confidence going into it. And if I get slowed by Curari, I have to be very careful of the two-headed ogre. Fortunately, doesn't end up being a concern here, so we'll just finish them off. No real issues. Guess I will want to pick up that potion next game. But yeah, I feel like my lack of overall experience in Tomb makes it a relatively scary place for me. And I definitely lost at least one character at that stage in the game. I mean, part of what qualifies it and makes it a bit more manageable is it's generally going to be the last rune you go for, and after making your way through all of the hells, all of Pan, there's not a heck of a lot that your character is going to be completely unable to handle. We'll definitely run away from Herald for the moment here before we get harpooned into the middle of nowhere. I guess we could go back down, especially 1v1, we should be completely fine. You can also take a peek at how our skills are looking. Elemental Force is at least on the list here, still a little bit too high of a failure rate. But we'll keep that in mind at least. Run, you sleep. Fair enough. Definitely one of the more straightforward species in the game. I'm hoping some of that, I guess, straightforwardness is going to be mitigated by the fact that Qazlal makes basically any run an interesting snowball effect, where if things are going well, they go beautifully, but the flip side of that is constantly having to face off against the entire floor at the same time can very quickly slide into a nasty spot there. We'll see how it goes, of course. You carried most of the extended Death Talisman with you, so Jivia does not eat it. So you can become a Lich for Tomb. Oh yeah, being able to become a Lich. I also didn't even think Lich form also shapeshifting now. That's wild. Like, that might change everything I know and believe about the game. As we have an unseen horror somewhere here, fortunately, or I'm hoping rather, that some of our clouds will do a bit of the heavy lifting as I just aimlessly swing my axe around here. Oh, we did feel a bit more experience. There we go. Fantastic. There were Dispel Undead enemies as well, not just torments. You stick to storm form. Yeah, makes sense. Lich form can be very dangerous in Tomb with the Ushabtis, I think, are the main source of Dispel Undead that comes to mind. Super nasty stuff for sure. And Dunbrain US is Quaz good. Good is an interesting question in that regard. I really like Qazlal. Qazlal was the first victory I ever got in the game, but as kind of touched upon briefly a minute ago, it's very much a snowball simulator. If you're in a good spot and you're ahead of the curve, oh yeah, Qazlal is amazing. You know, you're dealing all this AoE damage, you have pure immunity from any type of clouds, which is super strong in very specific matchups. And on top of that, the third ability that we'll get here is stupidly strong at AoE. So that offsets one of the main issues that melee builds have specifically. So oftentimes a melee character with high defenses is just steamrolling their way through. But again, the sheer amount of noise you're making means that very quickly something that seems like an unlosable run can make a shift into terrifying territory. No helmet for us here. Brain broke down for a moment there, since I'm very much not used to playing Minotaurs and almost completely forgot about our innate mutation, of course, here. But yeah, one of my favorite parts about Qazlal, and you can actually experience it very easily if you, in the dungeon sprints, if you do the Ziggurat sprint, you can basically win on any character by going with Qazlal. You just have to survive the first 3 chambers, and then from then on, you're just disaster area, destroying everything around you constantly and getting enough piety back in each of those blasts to just keep that ball rolling. On the flip side of that, though, I've never actually tried bringing a Qazlal character into a real in-game or in-run ziggurat, and I'm curious if it would go as smoothly. Suspicions would be no, especially there's also the caveat that it depends on what rooms you end up getting, because a few enemies are fairly well suited for handling anything we can throw at them in this sense. Ooh, as we get the Hat of Pondering from our lovely snail friend here, I'll at least pick you up. I'm such a sucker for pondering stuff. It's weird because I stay away from harm. I avoid it like the plague. Haven't even really had a run where we tried out harm just to see how dangerous it could really be. And if you think about it, pondering is almost a similar thing, right? You're taking the slowness, which is a huge debuff, for a little bit of increase in your own power. And yet, I'm way more tempted by this. I mean, willpower is lovely. Mana will help just with Qazlal, but in general, on this character, not so much. Intelligence, just avoiding a stat death, but otherwise nothing too incredible there. We're gonna leave it off for now because I currently have no real recourse for if and when we run into Hydra here. So we're gonna play it a little bit on the safe side in that regard and make sure that as long as we're not already next to them, we can kind of just escape. I'm hoping that ideally here we'll find ourselves a branded axe. And in fact, I guess now that I say it out loud, chances of us finding that here in Lair, very low. Potentially we do want to like shift on over to Orc and see if we can't find even a pretty crappy fire axe there would do wonders for us. Ooh, hello Rook. Don't come at me when I'm in the middle of mass tabbing a group of enemies. I'm not paying enough attention to deal with you, my friend. I mean, fortunately it all just kind of works out, but that's fine. But how did that genie run with bad spells go? Not great. Yes, unfortunately we did lose that character. We never ended up getting any real offensive spells, and it was whole utility and summoning, which probably still could have gotten us there, but unfortunately made the Magic Bow probably end up being a slightly less than ideal situation for us. And hello Hydra, we were just talking about you, friend. I guess one of you with only 4 heads, not the end of the world. We will just blast you with our lightning rod. But holy moly, not too bad. Of course the game will give me Magic Bow no offensive spells. It's just the way of the world sometimes. I was very curious after the fact. The question on my mind was if you had Magic Bow and a genie and Lahudib's crystal spear, as long as the sphere hits, does it always pay for itself? Because that seems like a pretty wildly strong option. And we're just gonna walk away from these friends. What I'm kind of hoping is, I mean, the teleport trap will do the trick anyway, but the other side of it, one of the kind of sneaky advantages with Qazlal is your storms. Enemies aren't going to walk through them willingly as long as they're of baseline intelligence. I think as long as they're not mindless, they do so. And so you end up getting a nice little buffer a lot of the times. So if you can survive those first few opportunity attacks, then gives you the wiggle room you need to continue. But yeah, very, very curious about Genie with Magic Bow now. Unfortunately, it's not a run that I expect to be able to repeat anytime soon. But I'm hopeful, at the very least, that we'll give it another, or get another shot at it at some point down the road. Yeah, Lahudib's Crystal Spear, even some of the mass AoE spells, the level 9 spells would cost 18 health just to send them out there. But I imagine that they're going to be doing enough damage to make up for that. I mean, could be wrong for sure, but that's the world I want to live in, I guess. So we'll just live the dream there and hope that that is indeed the case. So we just completely ignore our invisible wizard friend and get murdering. Fantastic. Ring of Protection from Fire, there's a pretty decent chance that we'll end up wanting that if we don't find a different source at any stage in the near future here. And a bunch of Scary, mited orcs. Probably could have slowed this one down a little bit earlier than we did, but that's fine. We will bring you back, my friend. And then we might as well play it a little bit safer with the Orc Knight. Let's heal up, let that might wear off as well. And then we can run back in there and take care of that friend. No real issue. And similar here, the right move is probably to walk away and not deal with a bunch of mighted enemies, but not the end of the world after all here, as we make short work. Another way extended was different from your expectations, is there's less EXP than you thought. You've seen so many morgues with all skills max, because guess those are mega ziggers? Oh, for sure. Yeah, you basically have to be on a mega ziggurat character. Definitely if you want to get to all max, but even if you want to have a nice smattering of all max skills, because there's a pretty big fall off on the experience, especially when you're kind of weighing the difficulty to kill a lot of those extended late game enemies to how much experience they give. You probably aren't going to want to put yourself into those encounters as much as you'd need to get that level of experience. Ooh, plate armor of poison resistance. Let's actually wheel back here real quick, and I will swap out dragon scales for that son of a gun. And I'm very tempted by the Curari darts. That seems like it could be advantageous for us. But we'll just leave it for the moment here and keep fighting all of our new friends. Again, this is kind of a good showcase of just how many enemies you have to fight through when following Qazlal, as more and more just keep coming around the corner, even as we just try to heal up from each fight. Regen is going to become invaluable for us if we're able to find a good source of that we can handle early. Definitely would put on an amulet of regen just on the spot if we happen to find one. And doing the double Orc High Priest makes me want to do a little bit of a ring around the rosy here. At least bring them back this way, and you know what, let's do our first disaster area to just get a nice amount of damage down on all these kiddos. Fortunately, still leaves us a little bit lower than I would like. This son of a gun can hit like a truck while mighted, and then of course the smite's coming down from on high as well. Probably should have addressed this before it got to this dire situation here, but fortunately, nothing that a single heal wounds shouldn't be able to handle for us. And we hit all of our skill caps as well, so evocation can probably come on at this stage. We have those rechargeable evocables on hand, so why the heck not? And what else? Maybe I do just turn Invo back on. It is going to be pretty huge, the entire run. So if we just have that not focused, and then we can focus whatever other skills we want in the interim, and see how that goes. The last good Qazlal run I had, if I remember correctly, was a character very similar to this one, but they were using two-handed axes, something that I usually don't persist too far into the late game. I personally like to swap into shields almost as soon as it's viable. But that character just ended up being very much following along the lines of let's just snowball. And they could output enough damage to make it work, but oh boy, was it a risky endeavor to say the least. We get a repulsion scarf with fire resistance and a little bit of strength. I mean, that's not bad. I am a sucker for the willpower cloak we're currently wearing is huge. And as long as we're using the reflect amulet, we probably don't really need this bad boy, but that resistance to fire is something we're currently missing. And a +5 pair of gloves, cold resistance, corrosion resistance. Holy moly. Well, amnesia scrolls, those can hit the deck, so let's immediately put these lovely new gloves on. That's fantastic. And this scarf I would probably like to carry around as well. I don't really have much trash. Besides that staff of fire, so never mind. We are looking much better here. Box of Beasts all marked to come back for if we don't pick it up in the interim. Another fantastic evocable for us here, and I guess that's the floor. From my recollection, we did not get any fire-branded X's. Be that as it may, we do have a selection of all sorts of maces and flails, and potentially that is our best option for dealing with Hydras moving forward. Current attack delay is at least at 1.0. Okay damage rating. It's not ideal. I don't love it. But if it's all we got, then we will make do here. And what can I drop to make that space? Probably should drop the poison resistance plate armor. I'm still indecisive, and that's why we still have this and the poison resistance ring kicking around. I guess we did just get another source of cold resistance, so bearing that in mind, let's just swap over now. The ring of poison resistance can then also be dropped for the moment. And now that I think about it, we do have a little bit more of work to go in these upper zones here, so we can take a peek. And maybe, just maybe, it's not too late. Hey, El Rocco, what's your chance of banishing me, my friend? 12%? That's too high for an extended fight. So we'll play it, again, a little bit on the safe side. Let's head back over to Lair now that we are looking slightly more good to go here. And let's just make our way through, shall we? I guess the other option we have at the end of the day here for Hydras is to just lean hard into Qazlal, especially if you do Disaster Area and then Elemental Force. You create a bunch of clouds around you, and then you turn them all into elementals fighting on your side. And so that generally can take care of any single target. It makes Qazlal followers super strong, actually, against uniques, because the air elementals, of course, have an irresistible paralysis effect. So no matter how strong your enemy is, you can always just get an absurd number of air elementals to show up and completely and totally ruin their day. So that is a fantastic thing that we'll hopefully be able to showcase at some point during this run. But of course, in order to do so, we will have to survive long enough to see it all come to fruition here. And see, this is what I was kind of hoping for today. Oh, not the Hydra part though. Torinski, pay at least bare minimum attention, please. If you could be so kind, fantastic. I mean, there we go. We get a little bit of an example there. Definitely super strong, and we're able to take out the Hydra that I didn't even notice as I was starting off into a tirade about how nice it is to play a bit more of a tab-heavy character. Something a bit more mindless is exactly what I was looking for after the events of the last couple weeks. So it's nice to just be on autopilot, be able to just talk about whatever. Of course, usually it makes the narration a little bit easier when we're constantly in trouble, because I can talk a lot more about what we're doing instead talking very much in the abstract here. But regardless, still love to see it. And exactly what we were aiming for, as I touched upon. Ooh, there's Jivia. Hello, my friend. Unfortunately, too little too late, as we've made new friends. Snooze you lose, my friend. It's the early god that gets the worm at the end of the day here. And let's bring you upstairs to just finish off this fight. So yeah, as long as we're feeling strong enough, we're able to do basically that exact thing in any encounter. We just have to hope that no encounter lasts too long, that we don't have that escape up the stairs to lean on. And of course, the other thing is, even if you do escape up the stairs, oftentimes you'll leave a force that you don't really want to step down into. And then the worst case scenario is when you've done that 3 times and then suddenly you just have no idea what to do anymore. There are no safe stairs, everything's a nightmare. And you just have to kind of cross your fingers and hope you can blast your way through one of those entrances. Oh, I didn't even realize we're on layer 5. Turns out my brain was taking that autopilot very literally, and that's just how we're doing here. I failed a 1%. How about that? And Brandy, you checked with the Magic Bow against monsters with at least reasonable health. It'll pay for itself, possibly heal you each time for 20 to 50, as long as it doesn't miss. Yeah, it's infinite mana, and with Firestorm, it'd just be pure immortality. Oh, yeah, I wasn't even thinking about Firestorm. Firestorm, for whatever reason, always slips my mind. I'm a Polar Vortex Shatter kind of guy, but I guess the nice thing about the Firestorm is the cutting through vulnerability. So it makes it a little more feasible for any type of enemy, which is awesome. But let us blast our way through all of our new friends here, and we can just use the Morningstar this time around, so that's fantastic. Oh, exactly, Dan Brady. Yeah, unfortunately, it may impact watching, maybe not quite as interesting as usual, and for that I apologize, but... Oops, not adjust. I actually wanted to come in here and let's inscribe these sons of guns. But again, it is very much what my brain was needing today, so it is what it is. And then you tap yourself into a bad situation and it's over. Hey, don't blow up our spot here, because chances are you're 100% right, and that is exactly what's going to happen here. But I have high hopes. I'm going to remain an optimist that we'll just tab our way to victory, right? How could it possibly go any other way?